Ben Martinez checked his watch for the third time as he hurried through the parking lot of Pine Valley Elementary School. The parent-teacher conference was supposed to start 10 minutes ago, but his construction job had run late. Again. He brushed some dust off his work shirt and hoped Sophia's teacher would understand. Being a single dad was harder than he had ever imagined. 3 years had passed since Maria died in that car accident, leaving him to raise their 8-year-old daughter alone. Some days felt impossible, but Sophia was his world. She deserved a father who showed up, even if he was sometimes late and covered in sawdust. The school hallway buzzed with other parents walking between classrooms. Ben pulled out the crumpled paper from his pocket to check Sophia's room number again. Room 12. He looked at the numbers on the doors as he walked down the long corridor. "Excuse me," he said to a woman walking ahead of him. "Do you know where room 12 is?" The woman turned around, and Ben felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Time seemed to stop. The woman standing in front of him had the same warm brown eyes and gentle smile he remembered from 10 years ago. But now she wore an expensive-looking navy blue suit and her hair was styled perfectly. "Ben." Emma whispered, her face going pale. "Emma." He could barely get her name out. "What are you doing here?" Emma stood frozen for a moment, her professional composure cracking. "I volunteer here. Reading program." She paused, studying his face. "You look good, Ben." "You too." And she did. Emma had always been beautiful, but now she carried herself with a confidence that made her even more stunning. "I can't believe it's really you." An awkward silence stretched between them. 10 years of questions hung in the air. Why did she leave without saying goodbye? Where had she been all this time? Why did she come back? "Which room are you looking for?" Emma asked, her voice more steady now. "Room 12. My daughter Sophia has her conference tonight." Emma's eyes widened slightly. "Sophia Martinez? The little girl with the bright smile who loves fairy tales. You know Sophia? I'm her reading volunteer. We spend time together twice a week." Emma smiled, and for a moment she looked exactly like the girl Ben had fallen in love with in high school. "She's wonderful, Ben. Really wonderful." Pride filled Ben's chest. "She is. She's everything good in my world." They started walking toward room 12 together. Ben noticed how other parents looked at Emma with respect. She clearly belonged in this world of well-dressed parents and expensive cars. He felt suddenly aware of his work boots and the dirt under his fingernails. "Here we are," Emma said as they reached the classroom door. "I should let you go in for your conference." "Wait." Ben touched her arm gently. "Will you be here when I come out? I'd like to talk." Emma hesitated. "I have to help clean up the reading corner, but yes. I'll be here." Ben's conference with Mrs. Peterson went well. Sophia was doing great in all her subjects, though she was sometimes quiet in class. Mrs. Peterson mentioned how much Sophia enjoyed reading time with the volunteer coordinator. "Miss Emma has really brought Sophia out of her shell," Mrs. Peterson explained. "Your daughter lights up when it's reading time. Miss Emma has a special way with the children." When Ben left the classroom 20 minutes later, Emma was sitting in a small chair in the hallway, reading a picture book to 3 young children whose parents were still in conferences. She looked so natural with them, so caring. Ben watched her make different voices for each character in the story, and the children giggled with delight. Sophia would love this, he thought. His daughter had been asking for months when he might find someone special to spend time with. Not a new mom exactly, but someone who could be part of their small family. When Emma finished the story, the children ran off to find their parents. She looked up and saw Ben watching her. "They're sweet kids," she said, standing and smoothing her skirt. "You're good with them." Ben sat down in one of the tiny chairs, feeling huge and out of place. "Sophia never told me about Miss Emma, but now I understand why she's been so excited about reading time. She talks about you all the time, Emma said, sitting back down. She's very proud of her dad. She tells everyone you build houses and that you make the best pancakes in the world. Ben laughed. They're just regular pancakes from a box. Not to her. To her, everything you do is special. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, surrounded by colorful drawings on the walls and the faint smell of crayons and glue sticks. Emma, Ben started, then stopped. He had so many questions, but he didn't know where to begin. I know, she said softly. There's a lot to explain. Why did you leave? One day we were making plans for after graduation, and the next day you were just gone. Your parents said you went to stay with relatives, but they wouldn't tell me where. Emma's face showed pain. It's complicated, Ben. I looked for you. I called every number I could find. I even drove to 3 different cities asking about your family. I know. I heard. You heard? From who? Emma looked down at her hands. My parents told me. They said you came by the house several times. Anger flashed through Ben, but he pushed it down. So you knew I was looking for you, and you never called? I wanted to. You have no idea how much I wanted to call you. Emma's eyes filled with tears. But I thought it would be better if I stayed away. Better for who? Before Emma could answer, a small voice called out from down the hallway. Daddy! Sophia came running toward them, her backpack bouncing as she moved. Behind her walked Mrs. Chen, the after-school program coordinator. Sorry, Mr. Martinez, Mrs. Chen said as she approached. Sophia was so excited when she heard you were here that she asked if she could come find you. It's fine, Ben said, standing up and opening his arms as Sophia crashed into him for a hug. How was your day, sunshine? He asked, kissing the top of her head. Good. I got an A on my spelling test, and we made art projects, and Miss Emma read us a new story about a princess who built her own castle instead of waiting for someone to save her. Sophia suddenly noticed Emma sitting nearby. Her whole face lit up. Miss Emma. Daddy, this is Miss Emma. She's the best reader in the whole world, and she knows like a million stories, and she always does the voices really good. Emma stood up, smiling. Hi, Sophia. I was just talking with your dad. You were? Sophia looked back and forth between them with curiosity. Do you know each other? Ben and Emma exchanged glances. We knew each other a long time ago, Ben said carefully. Before you were born. Really? That's so cool. Sophia grabbed Emma's hand and Ben's hand, pulling them both toward the exit. Daddy, can Miss Emma come have dinner with us? I want to show her my room and my book collection. Oh, Sophia, I'm sure Miss Emma has other plans, Ben started. Actually, Emma said, her voice soft, I don't have any plans tonight. Ben looked at her with surprise. You'd want to come to dinner? It's just going to be spaghetti and meatballs from a jar. That sounds perfect. As they walked out of the school together, Sophia chattering happily between them about her day, Ben felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Seeing Emma with Sophia felt right in a way that scared and excited him at the same time. In the parking lot, Emma stopped beside a sleek black car that probably cost more than Ben made in 2 years. Nice car, he said, trying to keep his voice casual. Emma blushed slightly. It's for work mostly. I do a lot of driving for meetings. What kind of work do you do? Business consulting, she said quickly. Nothing very exciting. Ben sensed she wasn't telling him everything, but he didn't want to push. Not yet. They had the whole evening ahead of them, and for the first time in 10 years, he would get to spend time with Emma Rodriguez, the girl who had stolen his heart in high school and never given it back. Follow us, he said, pointing to his old pickup truck. Sophia can give you directions if you get lost. As they drove through town toward Ben's small house, Sophia kept up a steady stream of chatter from the passenger seat about Miss Emma and how much fun dinner was going to be. Ben found himself smiling more than he had in months. Whatever had happened between them in the past, whatever had kept Emma away for 10 years, tonight felt like a new beginning. Maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. Dinner at Ben's house that evening felt surprisingly natural. Sophia showed Emma every corner of their small home, from her collection of stuffed animals to the photo wall in the living room that displayed their life together over the past 3 years. "This is when we went camping last summer," Sophia explained, pointing to a picture of her and Ben by a lake. "And this is when I lost my first tooth. Daddy gave me $5 whole." Emma studied each photo carefully, and Ben noticed how her eyes lingered on the pictures of him and Sophia together. There was something in her expression that looked like sadness, but also warmth. "You have a beautiful home," Emma said as they sat down to eat. "It's not much," Ben replied, suddenly aware of how small and simple everything must look to someone who drove such an expensive car. "It's perfect," Emma said firmly. "You can tell it's filled with love." Over spaghetti and meatballs, Sophia dominated the conversation, telling Emma about her favorite books, her best friend Rachel, and how her daddy taught her to ride a bike without training wheels. "Daddy says I'm brave like a knight," Sophia announced proudly. "Your daddy is right," Emma agreed. "I can see how brave you are." After dinner, Sophia insisted on showing Emma her bedtime routine, including the 3 stories Ben read to her every night. When it came time for Emma to leave, Sophia hugged her tightly. "Will you come back soon?" Sophia asked. "I hope so," Emma said, looking at Ben. "How about we see Miss Emma at school first?" Ben suggested. "And maybe we can plan something for the weekend." Over the next few weeks, Ben found himself looking forward to school events more than he ever had before. Emma seemed to be involved in everything: the fall carnival planning committee, the book fair organization, and the upcoming school fundraiser. Every time they worked together, Ben felt the old connection growing stronger. "We need to decide on prizes for the carnival games," Emma said during a planning meeting in the school library. She pulled out a tablet and started taking notes. "The PTA budget allows for about $300. Ben watched her work, impressed by how organized and professional she was. Emma had always been smart in high school, but now she carried herself with the confidence of someone used to making important decisions. "What do you think, Ben?" asked Mrs. Rodriguez, the PTA president. "You've been to these events before." "Kids love simple stuff," Ben said. "Small toys, candy, maybe some books. Sophia always goes for the stuffed animals." "Good point," Emma said, making a note. "We should have options for different ages." After the meeting, Ben and Emma walked to their cars together. The October air was cool, and Emma pulled her coat closer around herself. "You're really good at this," Ben said. "The organizing, I mean. You always were good at planning things." Emma smiled. "Some things never change." "Some things do," Ben said softly, stopping beside his truck. "You seem different. More confident. More sure of yourself. 10 years changes a person." "Where did you go, Emma?" "After high school, I mean. Your parents never told me anything except that you moved away." Emma looked down at her keys. "I went to college in California. Then I stayed for work." "What kind of work?" "Business stuff. It's not very interesting." Ben sensed she was holding something back, but he didn't want to push too hard. They were building something good together, and he didn't want to ruin it by being too demanding. "Sophia really likes you," he said instead. "I like her too. She's special, Ben. You've done an amazing job raising her. It's been hard sometimes. Being alone." Ben leaned against his truck. "Some days I wonder if I'm enough for her. If she needs more than just me. She needs love and stability, and you give her both. That's everything." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, and Ben felt the urge to reach out and touch Emma's hand. But something held him back. Maybe it was the expensive watch on her wrist or the way she sometimes checked her phone during conversations as if important business couldn't wait. The following Saturday, Sophia convinced Ben to invite Emma to their weekly pancake breakfast. Emma arrived at 9 o'clock sharp, carrying a bag of fresh fruit and real maple syrup. "I thought we could make the pancakes extra special," she explained. Sophia was thrilled. She helped Emma wash strawberries while Ben worked at the stove. The kitchen felt full and happy in a way it hadn't since Maria died. "Daddy, can we ask Miss Emma to come to my school play?" Sophia asked as they ate. "It's next Friday, and I'm going to be a tree." "A tree?" Emma asked with interest. "A magic tree that grants wishes. I have a big speaking part." "I'd love to come," Emma said, looking at Ben for confirmation. "Of course. If you're free." "I'll make sure I'm free." After breakfast, they took Sophia to the park. Ben pushed his daughter on the swings while Emma sat on a nearby bench, making phone calls. He couldn't hear what she was saying, but she sounded professional and authoritative. More than once, she used words like budget and quarterly reports. "Is everything okay?" Ben asked when Emma finished her calls. "Just work stuff. Sorry about that. On a Saturday?" "Business doesn't really stop," Emma said with a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. That afternoon, as they walked through the downtown farmers market, Ben noticed how people looked at Emma. Not just because she was beautiful, but with recognition. A few people even nodded at her respectfully, as if they knew who she was. "Do you know all these people?" Ben asked. "Small town," Emma said quickly. "People remember faces." But Pine Valley wasn't that small, and Ben had lived here his whole life except for the year he'd spent in community college. He didn't recognize most of the people who seemed to know Emma. Over the next 2 weeks, Ben's feelings for Emma grew stronger every day. She came to Sophia's school play and cheered louder than anyone when Sophia delivered her lines perfectly. She helped with homework and taught Sophia how to make friendship bracelets. She even learned to play Sophia's favorite board game, though she was terrible at it and always lost. "You're really bad at this game," Sophia giggled one evening as Emma's game piece got sent back to start for the 3rd time. "I'm better with numbers than with luck," Emma laughed. "What kind of numbers?" Ben asked. Emma paused for just a moment too long. "Oh, just general business numbers. Boring stuff." It was then that Ben started to really wonder what Emma was hiding. Her phone rang constantly with important-sounding calls. She always had cash to pay for things, never worrying about the cost. And sometimes, when she thought no one was looking, she had an expression that seemed almost guilty. The truth came crashing down on a Tuesday morning in November. Ben was at a job site, finishing up electrical work on a new office building, when his boss Mike walked over with a frustrated expression. "We've got a problem, Martinez," Mike said. "The client wants to meet about some changes to the design. Apparently the CEO is coming personally to review everything." "Okay," Ben said, wiping his hands on a rag. "When?" "Now. They're in the trailer waiting for us." Ben followed Mike to the construction trailer that served as their temporary office. Through the window, he could see the back of a woman in an elegant black suit, her hair pulled into a professional bun. "Sorry to keep you waiting," Mike said as they entered the trailer. The woman turned around, and Ben's world tilted sideways. Emma stood there in a perfectly tailored business suit, holding a leather briefcase and looking every inch the successful executive. Her face went white when she saw Ben. "Ben," she whispered. "I don't understand," Ben said, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. Mike looked between them with confusion. "Do you two know each other?" Emma took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. "I'm Emma Rodriguez, CEO of Rodriguez Development Group. We're the primary investor in this project." Ben felt like someone had knocked all the air out of his lungs. Rodriguez Development Group was one of the biggest construction companies in the state. They owned half the commercial properties in town. "You're the CEO," Ben said flatly. "Yes. This whole time, you've been lying to me." "I never lied exactly. I just didn't tell you everything." "Business consulting," Ben said bitterly. "That's what you called it." Mike cleared his throat awkwardly. "Should I leave you two to talk privately?" "No," Ben said sharply. "Let's just get this meeting over with." For the next hour, Emma went through the project details with cold professionalism. She pointed out issues with the timeline and suggested changes to improve efficiency. She was clearly intelligent and knowledgeable about construction, asking questions that showed she understood every aspect of the business. Ben answered when spoken to directly, but otherwise stayed silent. He kept thinking about all the times Emma had let him pay for dinner or worried about money for Sophia's activities while she probably had more money than he would see in a lifetime. When the meeting ended, Emma lingered as Mike packed up his materials. "Ben, can we talk?" "I don't think so." "Please. Let me explain." "Explain what?" "How you've been playing some kind of game with me and my daughter. How you've been pretending to be someone you're not." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Emma?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you were slumming it with the poor construction worker for fun." Pain flashed across Emma's face. "That's not fair and you know it." "Do I know it?" "Because I don't seem to know anything about you at all." Mike returned to the trailer, saving them from saying anything else they might regret. Ben grabbed his tool bag and headed for the door. "Ben, wait," Emma called after him. He stopped but didn't turn around. "Does Sophia know about who you really are?" "No." "Good. Let's keep it that way." Ben walked out of the trailer and didn't look back, even though he could feel Emma watching him go. His hands shook as he started his truck, and for the first time in years, he felt like he might cry. Everything had been a lie. The gentle woman who read stories to his daughter, who laughed at Sophia's jokes and helped with homework, who had been slowly healing his broken heart, she wasn't real. She was just another rich person playing at being normal. As Ben drove home to pick up Sophia from school, he tried to figure out how he was going to explain to his daughter why Miss Emma might not be coming around anymore. Sophia had been so happy these past weeks, more animated and joyful than she'd been since her mother died. How was he supposed to tell her that sometimes the people you care about aren't who they pretend to be? For 3 days, Ben avoided every place he might run into Emma. He picked Sophia up from school at different times, skipped the PTA meeting, and even changed his grocery shopping day. But avoiding Emma was harder than he thought, especially when Sophia kept asking about her. "Where is Miss Emma?" Sophia asked on Thursday evening as Ben tucked her into bed. "She was supposed to help me practice reading this week." "She's been busy with work stuff," Ben said, trying to keep his voice normal. "But she promised we would read the new princess book together." Miss Emma never breaks her promises. Ben's heart ached. He wanted to protect Sophia from the truth, but he also didn't want her to think Emma had simply abandoned her. "Sometimes grown-ups have complicated things to deal with," he said carefully. "Are you mad at Miss Emma?" Sophia asked with the directness that only children possess. Ben paused. "It's complicated, sunshine. Did you have a fight?" "Something like that." Sophia was quiet for a moment, thinking. "When Rachel and I fight, we always say sorry and make up. Maybe you should try that." "It's not that simple." "Why not?" Ben couldn't answer that question without explaining things Sophia was too young to understand. So he kissed her forehead and turned off the light, leaving his daughter's question hanging in the air. Friday morning brought an unexpected visitor to the construction site. Ben was installing cabinets when Mike called him over to the trailer again. "The CEO wants to see you," Mike said with a strange expression. Ben's stomach dropped. "I can't deal with this today, Mike." She says it's important. Something about stepping back from the project. That got Ben's attention. Rodriguez Development Group pulling out of the project would mean dozens of people losing their jobs, including him. Ben found Emma sitting in the trailer, but she looked different from the polished executive he'd seen earlier that week. Her eyes were red as if she'd been crying, and her usual perfect appearance seemed somehow diminished. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "Mike said something about you pulling out of the project." I'm transferring management to my business partner and removing myself from anything involving your construction company." Ben sat down across from her, confused. "Why?" "Because I don't want there to be any conflict of interest between us. I don't want you to ever think that my feelings for you or Sophia have anything to do with business. Emma, you can't just walk away from $1 million project because we had a fight." "Yes, I can. And I am." She pulled out a thick folder of papers. "I've already signed the transfer documents." Ben stared at her. "This doesn't make sense. Your company worked for months to get this contract." Emma took a shaky breath. "Ben, I need to tell you the truth. All of it. About why I left 10 years ago, about where I've been, about everything." "I'm listening." "When we graduated high school, I was pregnant." The words hit Ben like a physical blow. "What?" "I found out 3 weeks after graduation. I was scared and didn't know how to tell you." "Why didn't you tell me? We could have figured it out together." Tears started flowing down Emma's face. "I wanted to. But my parents found out first. They said you would ruin your life if you stayed with me. They said I would ruin your life. They convinced me that the best thing I could do was leave and handle it on my own." Ben felt angry and heartbroken at the same time. "So you just disappeared." "I went to stay with my aunt in California. The plan was to have the baby and give it up for adoption, then come back and maybe we could start over without anyone knowing. But you never came back. Because I lost the baby." Emma's voice broke completely. "At 5 months. There were complications and I lost our baby." Ben's anger melted away instantly, replaced by a grief he didn't know he could feel for something he'd never known existed. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I couldn't face coming back after that. I felt like I had failed at everything. So I stayed in California, threw myself into college, then business school. I built this company from nothing because work was the only thing that didn't hurt. Why didn't you ever call me? Even just to tell me what happened?" "Because I was ashamed. And because every year that passed made it harder to reach out. How do you call someone after 5 years and say, 'By the way, we had a baby that died'?" Ben reached across the table and took her hands. They were shaking. "You should have told me," he said gently. "I would have wanted to know. I would have wanted to grieve with you. I know that now. But at the time, I was 19 and scared and making all the wrong choices." They sat in silence for a few minutes, both processing the weight of what had been revealed. "Why did you come back to Pine Valley?" Ben asked finally. "My company acquired some properties here about 6 months ago. I told myself it was just business, but honestly, I was hoping I might see you. When I started volunteering at the school and met Sophia, I knew she was yours before anyone even told me. She has your eyes and your smile. And you didn't think to mention that you knew her father?" "I was going to. But then I saw how happy she was during reading time, and I was being selfish. I missed you so much, Ben. These past 10 years, I've been successful in business but completely empty inside. Being around you and Sophia again made me feel alive for the first time since I left." Ben studied Emma's face, seeing the pain she'd been carrying all these years. "I need you to understand something," she continued. "When I'm with you and Sophia, I'm not the CEO of anything. I'm just Emma, the girl who fell in love with you in high school and never stopped loving you. Even after you built this whole successful life. Especially then. Success doesn't mean anything when you're lonely. Ben thought about the past few weeks, remembering how natural Emma had seemed with Sophia, how genuine her laughter had been, how right it felt to have her in their small kitchen making pancakes. "I was so angry," he said. "When I found out who you really were, I felt like you had been playing some kind of game with us. I understand why you felt that way. And I'm sorry I wasn't honest from the beginning. I also felt like maybe you were just slumming it with the construction worker because it was novel or something." Emma's eyes flashed with pain. "Ben, do you remember what you said to me on our first date in high school?" "No. You said that money doesn't make someone a better person, it just makes them louder. You said you'd rather be poor and honest than rich and fake." Ben did remember saying that. They had been talking about some of the wealthy kids at their school who looked down on everyone else. "I've spent 10 years trying to prove to myself that having money wouldn't change who I am inside," Emma continued. "But the truth is, money did change me. It made me afraid to trust people, afraid they only wanted to be around me for what I could give them. When I'm with you and Sophia, I get to be the person I used to be. The person I want to be." Ben believed her. He could see the sincerity in her eyes, and he remembered the Emma he'd fallen in love with all those years ago. That Emma was still there, underneath the business suits and professional success. "What happens now?" he asked. "That's up to you. I meant what I said about removing myself from any business dealings with your company. I don't want money or work to complicate things between us." "And Sophia? I love that little girl like she's my own," Emma said fiercely. "If you'll let me, I want to be part of her life. Part of both your lives." Ben thought about Sophia's question from the night before about saying sorry and making up. Maybe his 8-year-old daughter was wiser than he'd given her credit for. "She's been asking about you," he admitted. "I've missed her so much this week. She has a school concert next Friday. She's been practicing a song about friendship. I'd love to come. If you want me there." Ben nodded slowly. "I want you there." The relief on Emma's face was overwhelming. "Really? Really? But Emma, we need to start over. No more secrets, no more hiding who you are. If we're going to do this, we do it honestly." "Completely honestly," she agreed. "And we go slow. For Sophia's sake. She's been through enough changes in her life." "Of course." Ben stood up and walked around the table to where Emma was sitting. She looked up at him with hope and fear in her eyes. "I never stopped loving you either," he said quietly. "Even when I was angry this week, I never stopped loving you." Emma stood up and stepped into his arms. They held each other tightly, both of them crying a little for the years they'd lost and the pain they'd both carried alone. 3 weeks later, Ben, Sophia, and Emma sat together in the school auditorium watching Sophia's class perform their concert. Sophia beamed at them from the stage as she sang her song about friendship, her voice clear and confident. "She's amazing," Emma whispered to Ben. "She is," he agreed, squeezing Emma's hand. After the concert, Sophia ran to them with excitement. "Did you hear me? Did I do good?" "You were perfect," Emma said, giving Sophia a big hug. "You were the best one up there," Ben added, lifting his daughter up for a hug. As they walked out of the school together, Sophia between them holding both their hands, Ben felt complete in a way he hadn't felt in years. "Daddy," Sophia said suddenly, "I have a question." "What's that, sunshine? Is Miss Emma going to be my new mom?" Ben and Emma exchanged glances over Sophia's head. They had talked about taking things slowly, about building a foundation of trust and communication they hadn't had before. But looking at Sophia's hopeful face and feeling Emma's hand in his, Ben realized that some things didn't need to be rushed or delayed. They just needed to be honest. "Would you like that?" Ben asked his daughter. "More than anything in the whole world." Emma knelt down to Sophia's level. "I would be honored to be your mom, if your daddy thinks it's okay." "I think it's more than okay," Ben said, his voice thick with emotion. 6 months later, on a sunny Saturday morning in May, Emma Rodriguez and Ben Martinez got married in the same park where they had their first date in high school. Sophia, wearing a yellow dress and carrying a bouquet of daisies, served as both flower girl and ring bearer. As they exchanged vows, Ben looked at Emma and saw not the successful CEO or the scared teenager who had left town years ago, but simply the woman he loved. The woman who read bedtime stories to Sophia every night, who helped with homework at the kitchen table, and who had brought joy and completeness back into their lives. Emma promised to love both Ben and Sophia with all her heart, to be honest and present, and to help build the kind of family where love mattered more than anything else. When they kissed as husband and wife, Sophia cheered louder than anyone in the small gathering of family and friends. That evening, as they sat on their back porch watching Sophia play in the yard, Emma leaned against Ben's shoulder. "Are you happy?" he asked. "Completely," she said. "This is everything I ever wanted. Even though it's not the fancy life you could have." Emma looked at their modest house, at Sophia chasing fireflies in the growing dusk, at Ben's work-roughened hand holding hers. "This is the best life I could have," she said. "This is home."